Well, hello everyone and welcome to another race meeting of this, the World Touring Car Series. We are on race meeting number 9, this time out at Road Atlanta. My name's Connery Maddock, and as ever I'm joined by the wonderful Peter Mackay, although hasn't always been joining me for all races this season. Peter, you're back though, and presumably ready and raring to go.
I'm delighted to be back, Connery. Thank you very much. Yeah, and what a better place to return than here at Road Atlanta, one of the best circuits, not just in North America, but anywhere in the world. A proper driver's challenge, lots of undulation. It should give us some great touring car racing tonight.
Yeah, they absolutely should. Let's just have a look at, where we've been coming up to this point. Of course, last time out, we headed to the home of British Motorsport at Silverstone, but not just Silverstone, it's the Silverstone International layout, which is perhaps the one of the least common layouts of the Silverstone circuit, but it certainly gave us, it certainly delivered in terms of the action that we had out there. Hopefully, a similar situation can be repeated here at Road Atlanta, but we are getting towards the back end of the season now here, Peter. Just 4 rounds to go. Next time out, we're at Bathurst, Mount Panorama, which is going to be an entirely different beast compared to anywhere else we've been. But here at Road Atlanta, this is where that final sprint to the end starts.
It is, and 2 iconic venues you mentioned there, your Road Atlanta, Mount Panorama, both with very significant motor races that have gone on there in the outdoor world over the last couple of weeks. Last weekend we had the sports car classic that is Petit Le Mans, that's run for nearly 25 years now. And of course this weekend, Mount Panorama, it's the Bathurst 1000, one of the biggest weekends of the racing calendar as well. And so the organisers, I think they've been very clever and very particular on what tracks they've chosen and when to race on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, we're having a look at the pro points at the moment because the gap has narrowed a little bit between Quentin Guinness and Ross McFarlane at the very front of the pro points. It's still quite a rift between the two of them, but that has closed in a little bit because of Guinness's tumultuous time at the Silverstone International layout. Steen Ledger there in 3rd place, again narrowing the gap slightly as well. So the top 3 contracting just a little bit here. Whether or not it'll be enough to give us a 3-way fight for the championship at the end still remains to be seen. Savinovic, Rushworth, Harrison, Butler, Stolzenberg, Holman and Freitas will round out the pro points. And well, let's go and take a look at the AM category because it is Benjamin Gregory that leads that with 804 points. Starting to develop a gap back to Stefan Schlacker now, who, as far as I'm aware, actually is not going to take any further part in the season. Of course, that's his own decision rather than any penalty that came down. So Gregory's next closest competitor is actually Dan Martin, down on 724 points. So that's a very healthy lead there for Gregory. Then we've got Stephen Daly, Mark Johnson, Michael Blake, Lee Berridge. We've got Malcolm Clibbons and Blackwell rounding out the top 10. And since, well, qualifying's finished at the moment, we might as well rush through and get ourselves the team points on the screen as well. So Pure Sims Esports leading the way, again, by a little bit of a narrower margin than they were coming into last week. They are 100 points ahead of DKC by SimRC. Then we have Pure Sims SimLab in third place, Team PGZ in P4 with RD Sim Sports P5, Semper Racing, RD Sim Sport 2, Boosted, SimRC, and SimTech Excite Racing round out the top 10 in terms of points. Peter, checkered flag is out there in qualifying at the moment. Drivers just getting themselves their final laps completed in this situation, if they're able to complete them.
Yeah, and at the moment it is so tight at the top of the timesheets. Kieran Harrison just missing out on pole position by 14 thousandths of a second, and then Ross McFarlane in there as well. He's in third, 55 thousandths of a second, so incredibly tight. I mean, it is a relatively short lap here at Road Atlanta, but that gives us a mouth-watering prospect heading into the races.
Yep, it really does. And, well, at least from what I'm seeing out there, pretty much everyone has been able to complete their final lap. So we can actually just go ahead and go through and bring you the starting grid for at least the first race of this evening. Remember, we do have we had 3 races over the course of today. The reverse grids for race 2 and 3 in effect, of course. But this first race set based off of qualifying, and here it is. Quentin Guinez back towards the top of the order. He gets himself pole position for the DKC by SimRC 888 machine, and he has a teammate on that front row as well. Kieran Harrison lines up in P2. Ross McFarlane in P3 with Esteban Rodriguez in P4. Konstantin Stolzenberg will start 5th with Morgan Butler in 6th. Steen Ledger will start 7th with Wojciech Savidovic in P8. Jake Blackall 9th with Luke Arabia 10th. Yaroslav Sebula in P11 with Damien Owen Harris in P12. Pete Newman lines up 13th, and then your highest qualified AM driver will be Rob Turner in P14 with Daniel Martin in P15, Harry Fox P16, Ben Gregory P17, Rafael Drage in P18. Marcel Fritsch starts in 19th with Mark Johnson in 20th. Dominic Horton in P21 with James Holman P22. Nick Clibbens and Sam Smith will round out 23rd and 24th. Then we get ourselves towards the very back of the starting grid. Neil Rocks in P25, Rob Sutherland in P26, Carl Johnson, Neil Stevenson, and Scott Malcolm will round out the 29-car starting grid here today. Here we go then. Everyone taking themselves to that starting grid here, Peter. It's a very, very short pit straight here at Road Atlanta. Not a lot of room to maneuver to try and fan out multiple cars wide down in towards turn number 1. And turn number 1's not too forgiving with regards to that either.
No, not at all. And really the whole kind of opening half of a lap is very, very tight. Until you're really out of turn 5, it's very, very narrow through the circuit. And yeah, you've got to have your wits about you and have your peripheral vision at its sharpest.
Really do, and well, drivers have another maximum of 25 seconds to get themselves onto the starting grids. If they're all ready and all prepared, iRacing actually skips this whole gridding procedure, which has caught us by surprise on a few occasions, but not this time around. Lights are on. Shortly they will extinguish and we'll go racing here at Road Atlanta. Quentin Guinez on pole position, a SimRC front row with Kieran Harrison there as well in second place. They're off the way down in towards turn number 1 for the first time here at Road Atlanta, and it is a clean run for both of those SimRC cars at the very front. Clean run for the top 4, in fact. We have to look back to P5 to find our first battle of Stolzenberg versus Butler as they head their way up in towards that slightly tricky turn 3 and to start the descent down the S's section.
Yeah, all getting through clean so far as they sweep down this very, very tricky kind of snaking section that almost goes down into a bowl and then up again through the very tricky turn 5. The car really wants to pogo around here as well, so the driver's got to be on top of that. But certainly the opening bunch doing very, very well in single file. Oh, one car off, number 27, Sam Smith in the AM class. Manages to get back going again. Doesn't look like too much damage, so should be able to recover.
Sam Smith seeming to have an issue. This is kind of right at the very back of the grid, so let's see what happened back here. Side by side for the S's is always a tricky situation. You're very far off the pace if you go side by side through there. You're just going to stack up everyone behind, and the entry into turn 5 becoming a bit congested and spitting Sam Smith out into the escape road.
Yeah, just unfortunate there. I mean, as we said, it's so narrow coming through that part of the track. It seems like a racing incident there where it is almost inevitable that you're going to get contact, and you just got to hope that it's minor enough that you can stay in at the game. But Corentin Guinez, championship leader, he leads away with Kieran Harrison, his teammate, right behind, and then it's Ross McFarlane. Stain Ledger, he's back in 7th, and I think Ross McFarlane would be quite glad to see his teammate up there with him. However, he does have a teammate in disguise there, the number 35 of Rodriguez, albeit in different colours, is running out of the same team.
Yeah, indeed, of course. So, I mean, we saw in a couple of races so far this season how strong that Pure Sims umbrella, I will say, because they're not technically part of the same team, as you mentioned, as for reasons for the series, but the same umbrella is what I'll say. It's the same thing I said in PESC when I used to commentate that. It's like, it's not, you know, Coanda and VRS and all that. They're just the Coanda umbrella. That's what I'm going to use for Pure Sims here.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I'm going to use another piece of shading equipment. They run out of the same awning, I guess, which is just a fancy umbrella, really.
Yeah, let's get the gazebos out, right?
Very good, very good. Yeah, they run out the same gazebo. Oh, you need multiple gazebos for the amount of cars they have.
Yeah, you really do. We've seen the armada of cars at the very front, although it is SimRC that lead this race in P1, P2 at the moment, so looking to collect some good team points for them. Of course, you know, not only are SimRC and Pure Sims battling in terms of the Drivers' Championship in the Pro class between Guinness and McFarlane, but also they are relatively there or thereabouts when it comes to the Teams Championship as well. There's Jake Blackall and Stolzenberg. Stolzenberg must have made a mistake, must have a slowdown penalty. He lets the trainer cars through on the inside into 1.
Oh, not the stage of the race to get a slowdown penalty when everyone's so bunched up together. The losses can be huge in terms of track position there as well. Got a little bit of a leading breakaway all the way from Guinness to Rodriguez, with a 4-car bunch breaking away at the front. And of course, this circuit is really a story of two halves. The first part of the circuit, you want maximum grip, maximum cornering performance, but then as soon as you come out of turn 7, just coming up right now, you have a huge long back straightaway, and this is where you need a kind of low downforce Le Mans spec, if you like. Of course, downforce isn't really so much of a concern in tin top racing, but that straight line speed as opposed to cornering speed balance is very important.
It really is, and well, we'll be seeing a lot of these drafting trains going on here today, given this big long stretch down in towards turn 10A, 10B. I mean, I think we've beaten the dead horse of American corner numbering systems too much this season already, as though in that second train, right at the head of it, that was Steen Ledger and Morgan Butler just getting themselves involved here, and it continues on here under the Suzuki Bridge and down in towards the final corner. Butler still in the thick of things. He's got Blackall ahead of him now. He's got Sebbia looking all over the rear as well. Stolzenberg deciding that he wants to try and get himself around the outside in towards turn number 1. It just goes to show how one little situation can really cascade into something quite crazy.
Yeah, momentum's so important here as well, and as soon as you lose it, you just get freight trained in this type of racing as well. Have a look at a replay of how that one played out. As we head down into turn 10A and B. Now, this is the 85 of Steen Ledger making a move, and oh dear. Well, a little bit of friendly fire there, Connery, because as we mentioned, different colours, same awning.
Yeah, you know, the last person that you want to hit is your teammate, right? I know they're not technically teammates. We've gone over this already. There's a bit of action under the gazebo, is what I'll say there.
Oh yeah, there's going to be helmets flying around the gazebo later.
Yeah, oh dear. Great opportunistic driving from Blackall to get through on that one as well. Even though, again, all teammates. Stolzenberg again, at least getting himself an opportunity to try and get himself by. But as we return back to the live pictures, he is still in that 10th place for the moment. And, well, due to all of that happening, basically at the very front of that secondary train, it has caused even more of a rift between the top 4 and the rest.
Yeah, I wonder just if Ross McFarlane here is just maybe just biding his time, trying to get a bit of a study on where the two The two cars in front are quick, of course, two teammates, Guinness and Harrison, and just studying to see where they're quick, where they're slow. The one thing that, you know, Ross McFarlane's driving style typifies is he will not go for half-hearted moves. He's not that sort of driver. He will only go for a move if he's fully confident to pull it off. And 99 times out of 100, if he goes for a move, he will pull it off and not end up in accidents going for moves. I think that's something that's kept him in contest for so many championships over the years.
Yep, it really has. And, well, it's going to be a bit more of a struggle for him this season to try and get himself a title. Guinness has been, far and away one of, if not the best drivers in this series. We have, Harrison's up there, Ross is up there as well. So it is a bit of a struggle for any other names to try and get themselves inside of that top three, because those guys have been so good. We're having a look at the battle for the AM class lead at the moment. So that's Dan Martin and Rob Turner, very close on the brakes in towards the chicane at the very end of the lap. Dan Martin, of course, having had a decent run of races, definitely within a shout of the AM Championship, and well, he's technically second place in the AM Championship at the moment, given if Schlacker doesn't run any more races.
Yeah, it's that's certainly the word in the paddock is that Stefan Schlacker said he will not run any more races in the championship, which is, do you know what, actually, I have to say, Connery, is a pity, because that AM Championship has been so tightly contested and you couldn't really see which way it was going to go. And yeah, it's not shot the fox. I'm sure there's plenty of racing to go on in the next 4 rounds, including this one, but yeah, it's always a pity when you see a front-running driver lead the series.
It is, although he does have his reasons. He'll probably
for Steph, you'll know for sure, and he'll tell you them.
Reasons. but yeah, just drop him a DM maybe. But yeah, yeah, don't do that.
Don't blame us.
If you want to preserve your ears, then probably not. Yeah, powerfully AM leads, still around about 0.7 of a second between those two at the moment. Actually growing to 0.8 of a second now. There's the front 4. So it's SimRC versus Pure Sims Gazebo with Ross McFarlane and Rodriguez from the latter. And look how much pressure that McFarlane was piling onto the back of Harrison there. Look, he's riding right on him through the final corner.
Yeah, I wonder if Harrison maybe just made a bit of a mistake there coming out of turn 11. Oh, Ross, don't make me a liar. I thought there was going to be quarter panel to quarter panel there, but no, just backs out of it. And this is an interesting dynamic, because this is playing perfectly into the hands of Corentin Guinness. Now, I'm sure mathematically it's still possible, but realistically, Kieran Harrison is out of the championship race at this stage, whereas Guinness is the championship leader. So this battling between Harrison and McFarlane is giving Guinness at least an opportunity to escape. Will he take it?
Well, every other opportunity that he has had to try to escape in races previous, he's taken that opportunity and used it to the best of his ability. And well, it looks like he's starting to do so now. Actually, on the run down the back straight, he did get himself 0.6 of a second coming off the corner, but that is not enough to break the slipstream. So everyone else is going to catch right back in on the way down into the braking zone of the chicane. But for Guinness, he really needs to get that, to be able to break away. He needs to absolutely nail that middle sector so that he is as clear as possible coming down the back straight. But that is very much easier said than done, especially at a circuit such as this one.
Interestingly, Harrison just running a slightly tighter line coming into the final corner. Not necessarily defensive, but tighter. Compared to McFarlane, who kind of goes for the much wider swooping style as they come through there as well. Very, very interesting indeed how that one works out here at Road Atlanta, because it is really, it's a proper helter-skelter of a corner coming through and then shoots you down the start-finish straight. And as you rightly said, Connery, it's not a long start-finish straight before you're tipping into the equally quick turn 1.
Oh, Rob Turner getting himself out of shape over the curb here. He loses his position. He gets bullied out of road a little bit, out onto the grass. This is with Sebula. This is with Traj, the 2 teammates there. And, well, Turner able to get the elbows out a little bit, trying to maintain the position ahead of Draj in towards turn number 5. There's the Semper Racing car of Rafael Draj, who attempted to try and follow through in the tyre tracks of his teammate. Wasn't able to be in any way successful though, but still very close coming out of the turn before the back straight here at Atlanta, turn number 7. And well, there's apparently a turn number 8 here somewhere. I don't know where, if anyone's able to point that out though.
I'm not going there. I'm not going there. All I would say is that the former owners of this circuit back in the late 70s, the Whittington brothers, they actually used to land their private aircraft on the back straight here. So if you can land an aircraft on it, I doubt there's any. I'd hope there isn't any corners.
Oh, well, there we go. Side by side, like Rabia and Savinovic. They've been wheel to wheel for basically half the lap at this point, and it seems like shows no signs of slowing down. Side by side, it's towards turn number 3 as well, and they'll continue on the fight down the hill, down the SS section, and everyone else just sort of waiting in line further behind this one. Blackhall not able to get himself through either, although Rabia has been able to secure himself ahead for now. But look at how much it's stacked up everyone behind. Everyone getting a bit antsy now, trying to progress forward, and that's exactly what Stolzenberg's trying to do, because he's got himself to the outside of Blackhall into turn 6, coming through turn 7 now. Not able to complete that move whatsoever, but you can just see, how much of a roadblock 2 cars going side by side ahead is at this racetrack.
Yeah, it's in multi-class racing. It's the worst nightmare of the faster car coming through. Luckily, in the TCRs, they're all in the same class, all very similar performance. So speaking of that, actually, Conroy, a lot's made of the balance of performance to get these cars as close in performance as possible to give close racing. But the series organisers, I think, have done a super job. And look at the front, we've got the 3 kind of latest models of TCR car in iRacing. You've got the Veloster, you've got the Elantra, and you've got the Honda Civic Type R. 1, 2, 3, 3 very equally quick drivers in them. And yeah, if you need an example of, and of course they were separated by half a tenth in qualifying too, so that the performance balance looks perfect.
Ross McFarlane once again just riding the back bumper of that Elantra ahead of him, and well, perhaps literally so, on the way through turn number 5 there. McFarlane is not giving Harrison any sort of room to breathe at this point, and have to wonder when the opportunity will come here for McFarlane. He's had a slight chance once or twice already, but we're starting to get towards the 5 minutes to go mark at this point, and time is of the essence a little bit here. Remember, we do have 2 other races to get on with over the course of this race meeting, but definitely want to make an impact early on here, and McFarlane not going to get the opportunity into the chicane this time around. It does seem like, actually, that Elantra might be has a slightly more top end than what the Civic's able to manage, because he was actually pulling away, even though both of them had draft going towards the end of that straight.
Yeah, very interesting there. I mean, that it could potentially be the Elantra's got a slightly slippier shape, maybe. I don't know, splitting hairs. The one thing, the Honda does look very good on the front end in the way that McFarlane's got it set up. He does just look to have a bit more grip. Look how much of a tighter line he's able to pull there, as well as Harrison letting the car run out a little bit more. Fascinating racing, but they're so tightly matched here that it's so difficult to make a move. Of course, for a race 2 and 3, Conroy, we've got the extra added spice, a big added spice. It's like landing a Scotch bonnet pepper in the mix there. We're going to have our reverse grids, but all of these drivers in this leading group, they'll be hoping it's a low number of reverse grid, not a full reverse.
Well, they haven't been lucky so far. We have not had a full reverse grid this season. We had one slightly less than that last time out at Silverstone, where we got ourselves a 24-car reverse grid. We haven't had a full reverse grid here in this season, so that's one to look out for. But these guys, like you said, hoping that it's going to keep itself rather small, as has been the theme throughout this season. One race last time notwithstanding, but Ross McFarlane, again, no opportunity, or at least not going to go for the lunge down into the braking zone of the chicane. You'll be entitled to, because Harrison has been leaving that door open. It's just that McFarlane doesn't seem too eager to try and go for that one just yet. Meanwhile, David Onaris down the inside at the chicane over Yaroslav Sebula.
Ooh, yeah, good move there. Damien just holding off holding off. Oh, as they come through, absolutely bumper to bumper coming through the final curve, and Owen Harris has to go on a super defensive line in that green and black. Hyundai Veloster holds that tight inside line. Oh, it's very, very tight there as well. Ooh. Just trying to hold the line as best as possible, and Sebula has to back out of it eventually, but did try to tough it out around the outside. Oh, very tight indeed. I tell you, I really like the look of this Hyundai Elantra. It's a shame we don't get it here in the UK. And actually, Joe, I read a story the other day, Connery, that an owner of a Hyundai... Oh, who's that off? Oh, it's our AM class leader off.
It is.
Oh,
flashing
he's not
the
happy.
lights in frustration. Is it at someone else, or is it frustration with himself? Turn 5 is a very, very tricky portion of the track to have to deal with. And let's have a look and see what happens here to Dan Martin on the replay.
There's no one around him.
Oh!
Oh! What the...
What?
Now that, as far as I'm aware, is what we refer to as a landmine.
Yeah.
A little bit of a glitch in the software. That is rotten fortune here. Let's have a look. So over the curb. Oh, that is just rotten luck. You've very, very rarely seen that. I think I've only seen that once before at Long Beach on the iRacing platform. That's... I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's, it's a problem more at this track than it seems to be any others. At least that's what I've heard from the drivers. But yeah, that's super unlucky. I mean, you even rarely see it at even iRacing special events, the Petit Le Mans that's coming up. Even those big special events, I don't see that many people hitting those in such a fashion. In such a catastrophic fashion, shall we say. Of course, they still have an effect on the car, if you do run in the wrong way over them, but not, almost flipping the car out onto two wheels.
And that was just a dead stop. Yeah. It's wow. That must have given him quite a fright. In the that would have grabbed Dan's attention. Well, back at the front, this will be the penultimate lap, and here comes McFarlane. He's having a go. Big dive up the inside, leaning on the front end of that Honda, but Harrison just able to defend there in the Hyundai, and that little exchange, 3-4 car lengths immediately in the favour of Guinness at a critical moment.
Coming across the line then to start the final lap. It looks like Guinness, at least with 0.7 of a second ahead, unless there's a miraculous run from Harrison. It seems like Guinness might just have this race win in the bag, but we'll have to wait until the end of this lap, of course, to say for sure. Harrison, though, his focus is on trying to keep that second step on the podium. McFarlane has been breathing down his neck for basically half the race at this point, and still has yet to try and find a way through. Rodriguez, though, might be the dark horse in this situation. He's just been sitting there in 4th place, just minding his own business. Maybe he decides to press forward on this final lap as Harrison looks towards the outside, becomes the inside, and he might get that inside in towards turn number 7 here. But how does this bring Rodriguez into it? Because if Rodriguez can get himself a good line through the corner, he can get himself a monster run down this back straight. They're all stacked up here together, Peter, coming down the back straight. There's pushing going on between the two Pure Sims cars as well. I think potentially Harrison might be a bit of a sitting duck here on the way down in towards the chicane as McFarlane gets himself towards the inside. Battle of the late breakers here at the end of the first race here at Road Atlanta for the World Touring Car Series. The level coming up underneath the Suzuki Bridge, but Harrison still has that preferred inside line to get himself towards the checkered flag. He just has to negotiate that corner. He gets 2nd place, but it's Guinness ahead of them that comes home and takes another race win.
Superb battling, but I think that's quite ominous there, Connery. I mean, we know how close they are on lap time as well. Side by side between Sebula and Owen Harrison. Oh, nerfed. Yaroslav Sebula. Oh, dear. But yeah, I mean, it seems that the Honda Civic of Pure Sims and the Hyundai Elantra of Harrison there they're very evenly matched on lap time, but on that on that back straight, excuse me, that Elantra's just got that critical last few miles an hour in top gear there. Despite the bump drafting from the Pearson's drivers, I think they were on the limiter in top gear there. They couldn't go any quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, there may be setup differences with regards to how much wing these guys are using and things like that, but my words, that was a pretty close affair for second place right there into the final couple of corners. It does happen here at Road Atlanta, those sorts of grandstand finishes. That's what happens when you have a long run down into a final sector. But congratulations to Quentin Guinness. He extends his championship advantage here in the World Touring Car Series. And so, well, if you ask other drivers, that he doesn't need any more of an advantage when it comes to this championship at the moment. But we will just take the time to get ourselves the spinny wheel of hope, or the spinny wheel of doom. It is a very subjective thing here. Let's get us a look at who is reverse grid pole position for race number 2.
Well, those drivers from that leading bunch of 4 cars, they'll be hoping that this is a small number. 13 is as small as it can go, or almost as small as it can go. Looks like 20, Connery.
Yeah, 20 car reverse grid will mean it's the solo Audi in the field. It will mean that Craig Williams gets himself reverse grid pole position here. That will shake things up for sure. And it does mean that we'll get a contingent of AM drivers towards the very front as well, because we'll have Benjamin Gregory start second, with Dan Martin in third, with Mark Johnson fourth, with Rob Turner fifth, and Harry Fox in sixth. So, yeah, it might be an AM affair at the very front of the field, at least at the start of this second race. But, of course, we'll just take a moment here and get ourselves a little bit of a look at the finishing results from this first race of the evening. It's Quentin Guinness that gets himself the race win by 0.8 of a second back to Kieran Harrison. Then it's Ross McFarlane with Esteban Rodriguez. We've got Steen Ledger in 5th with Konstantin Stolzenberg in 6th. Lloyd Brabia 7th, Savidovic in P8. And then P9, we got Jake Blackhall with Morgan Butler in P10. Having a look at the second page of results, we have Damien Owen Harris as our 11th place driver. And then, of course, we get ourselves Jaroslav Sebla in P12, Rafael Jars P13, James Holman 14th. And then we have our AM class winner, Harry Fox from Wiskins Racing in P15. We saw a bit of chaos at the very front. We didn't quite recap the AM category battles, but Harry Fox has been able to come out in terms of that one. Rob Turner in 16th with Mark Johnson 17th. Daniel Martin P18 with Ben Gregory in P19. Craig Williams rounds out the top 20, and he is reverse grid pole position. Jamie Rushworth, P21, with Anders Ankerson, P22. Neil Rocks in P23 with Nick Clevens, P24. Kyle Johnson, Neil Stevenson, Short Gardner, Scott Malcolm, Rob Sutherland, and Marcel Fritsch round out the top 30 cars. And then we get ourselves towards those cars, one lap down or more. Pete Newman, Dominic Cortum, Sam Smith, and Miguel Freitas. So there we go. There's our first race in the bag here, Peter. Very, very close affair at the very front. Even though they did maintain that 4-car breakaway that they were able to establish, it seemed like all of those guys in the front were very, very equal in terms of pace. I mean, you just have to look at qualifying to try and prove that.
Yeah, I think qualifying is definitely the factor that shows how close they are on lap time. I think the deciding factor really is where they make that lap time. McFarlane in the Honda definitely seems to have an edge through the parts of the circuit where it's one line in the corners. When they get onto that very long back straightaway, that Elantra just seems so slippery, and that's really critical at the very top of top gear. That slightly slippier shape maybe just seems to give it that tiny edge, and it's just enough. But whenever Harrison was under threat, it was just McFarlane couldn't quite get close enough when you were right at that very top speed. And when we go into the race 2 and race 3, which of course runs to reverse grid rules, completely different story. And will that corner speed be more helpful there? We'll find out shortly. Yeah,
absolutely. I like how someone gave contextualization to the incident that we saw with Dan Martin. It was Sean Ryan in the chat that says, nosedive into the sand, front clip went into the mesh or clipped with the ground and yanked the car back. So, yeah, it's super unlucky for Dan Martin there because he was running very, very well indeed, leading the AM class. And, you know, drivers are aware of where these things tend to happen. You know, it's quite common knowledge amongst these guys, you know, exactly where not to go, basically, in what way. But sometimes you can't help it. If you get your entry to the corner slightly wrong, your trajectory is only going to take you over that landmine, so to speak, and you're just hoping that it doesn't ruin your race.
I think the issue is that it's right on the racing line there. That's exactly the line, and I think, you know, nearly the whole field would have been over that line countless times, and it was just bad luck for Dan Martin. You know, these are the things that crop up occasionally, and they're often resolved very, very swiftly, actually, in my opinion. And I always think this is always an important time to note that the software that we're using here is groundbreaking. It's mind-blowing what it's capable of. We have people all over the world racing in real time in their own homes, and racing with such a realistic feel. You just have to look at how many real life racing drivers use the sim, and how many real life racing drivers are born out of sim racers now as well. I mean, look at Lauren Heinrich, who won a race here at Road Atlanta last weekend. He didn't start in the sim, but the sim was a key part of his development and to get him to the level where he is right now, and it remains so. So I always think it's so easy to demand absolute perfection, but like anything, like any race car, any human being, any piece of software, there's always going to be tiny things, and unfortunately it's just spoiled Dan Martin's race. However, 2 more races to go to make it up.
And Dan actually considers himself very lucky, because I was logging in the driver's Discord, and he said he got no damage from that.
Yeah, well, that's the attitude. That's the sunny attitude. Yeah.
So you was still 4th place in AM, which is, you know, still a very respectable result. Yes, it's not first, which is what it was looking at like for the majority of that race, but I think you got to see the silver lining to every cloud in these situations, and think to yourself then potentially it may have been so much worse. But we are heading into a second race here in just a couple of moments' time. 20-car reverse grid. Craig Williams in the Audi, the sole Audi in this field, getting himself to pole position. It's a good opportunity for Ben Gregory as well as the AM class leader coming into today to get himself a good result as well. But he does have to keep Dan Martin, Mark Johnson, Rob Turner, all those very quick AM drivers behind him, which is no small feat.
No, definitely not. And it's that you gotta be so smart in these reverse grid races as well, because it's so easy to get tangled up and you've got to be really, really clever. Use your head, place the car in the right places, and not get involved in kind of silly battles. If there's someone who's maybe a little bit quicker at that moment of the race, let them go, tuck in behind them, and play the strategy.
Yeah, that's simply what you have to do. Admins are busy getting ourselves our second server set up here, so we will be into that in relatively short amount of time, hopefully. But we can just sit here and talk about Corinne Guinness once again. Again, sometimes he just pulls these races out of the bag, pretty much out of nowhere. It's like, gets himself to pole position, deals with an amount of pressure behind. Yes, it was his teammates behind for all of that race, so it does mean that his the pressure's off him a little bit. But the consistency to not make any mistakes over the course of that 20 minutes is definitely something to be admired, and you know is the reason why he can establish a decent gap a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think so. I think without question, Corentin Guinness is the benchmark driver in this class, in this championship, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, he was so fast last season, just missed out on the championship through a little bit of misfortune, but he's come back this season and has just notched up another level. And I do believe that extra level has just put him that 1 or 2% ahead of the rest, and over the course of that season, that's really stood him in good stead. He's going to take some beating for the championship this year, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. It's not mathematically impossible for Ross to get himself up there and try to challenge, but with every race that goes Guinness's way, the more difficult that mountain it is to climb. So for McFarlane, he's hoping that maybe starting in the second race and pressing forward into the last couple of rounds in the season, he's got to be consistently finishing ahead of Guinness, which I don't know how you would even start to approach that in a lot of cases, given how strong he is.
Well, I think from McFarlane's point of view, I think he'll take quite a lot of comfort from last season, where he was actually a lot further away from Guinness in the championship lead at this exact point last season, in the opening season of this championship, and it turned around and he won it at the last round. So the gap was much bigger at that stage. Now it's smaller, but it's a stronger Corrington Guinness this second season again. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, this was just at the time of the season last time where Guinness's campaign started to fall apart. I'm not convinced that that's going to happen again. I don't think he's going to let it happen again somehow.
I mean, he has the experience of it happening last season, and yeah, perhaps has learned a couple of things from back then to make sure that doesn't happen coming into this particular season of the World Touring Car Series. So that's what he's got to watch out for. I've seen so many drivers bottle championships within the last couple of rounds because they can see that light at the end of the tunnel. They can see the trophy that they perhaps think is certainly theirs, and then all of a sudden, a couple of self spins, incidents that they perhaps shouldn't have got into or would not normally get into, but because they're in over their heads, it's they sometimes make those mistakes and they fall back through the order, and Guinness can't afford to have that happen.
No, definitely not. And that's going to be it's always the tough thing for drivers to get a championship sealed off. But we'll see. Now I didn't manage to finish my Hyundai Elantra N story,
Right.
Conry. So that in the US you can buy a Hyundai Elantra N road car. So apparently they're rather sporty. I actually saw one at Daytona. It's a very cool looking car. And it has an N mode on it, which is kind of like if you're a BMW fan, it's an M, or RS if you're an Audi fan or whatever. So when you have the car in N mode, it makes the exhaust quite loud and parpy. So loud and parpy that someone actually had a bone stock, no modifications, no fancy exhaust, nothing, who actually got his stock Hyundai Elantra N impounded in California for having too loud an exhaust.
That's not great.
I mean, it's not great for the person who's paying monthly payments for a car sitting in an impound, but what a cool car!
That's awesome, actually. This goes back to the whole situation with. I think Audi's particularly bad for this one with the soft limiters on their cars now.
The DSG farts.
Yeah, it's a little
I can't
annoying.
stand
I can see why noise regulations and things like that, but it's just not fun.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just get a manual gearbox, problem solved. I'm DSG farts are my new pet peeve because, and they're always in the town as well. You don't the DSG fart. People are probably thinking, what on earth are DSG farts? It's basically when an automatic gearbox or a dual clutch gearbox goes from one gear to the next, and it's already got the next gear kind of ready, but it blips the throttle, and you just get this artificial part coming out the exhaust, and it is more than mildly flatulent.
I'll just leave that hanging there.
There you go.
I'll just leave it. We've got ourselves a minute and a half to go before we get ourselves our grid and procedure here for race number 2, and we can actually take a look at the track conditions coming into this one, because we are almost around about 4 o'clock in sim time. Track temperature 42 degrees Celsius, a little toasty out there, not the highest that I've ever seen it though. And well, once we get a little bit later on into the evening for our third race, then of course that will drop back down and the tyres will be able to survive just that little bit better. But top 20 reverse grid coming into this one. with the Audi of Craig Williams getting himself onto that podium. We had a few situations in the previous couple of rounds here, Peter, where people have had backer grid penalties for one reason or the other, and it's kind of disrupted the reverse grid order. So that's why I've kind of started saying, you know, this is provisionally the reverse grid, because you never know what might happen. But at least from what we know now, it will be that Audi on pole, which is we've got to get an Audi win at some point this season, right? It's all been Hyundais and Hondas.
Well, I mean, Audi have so much success here at Road Atlanta. I mean, they won Petit Le Mans 9 years running. So they're the most successful manufacturer in outright victories at Petit Le Mans. So with these touring cars, definitely, I think they've got to keep up the good name of Ingolstadt and Audi Sport. Well, it's all on you, Craig Williams.
Yeah, Craig's. Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with the series, Craig is the only driver that has picked the Audi for this season, which is for some drivers a brave choice, a very brave choice indeed. But we have got ourselves our starting grid here for race number 2 of the evening at Road Atlanta for the World Touring Car Series. Let's take a look at it then, once my software loads and gets it up on the screen. There we go. Craig Williams, pole position, and the only pro driver inside the top 6 cars as well. That's a good opportunity for a good boatload of points for him. Ben Gregory in P2 with Daniel Martin P3, Mark Johnson P4, Rob Turner P5, Harry Fox P6. Then James Holman, Rafael Drage, Jaroslav Sebula, Damien Harris, Morgan Butler, Jake Blackhall rounds out the top 12. Savinovic, Rabia, Stolzenberg, Ledger, Rodriguez, McFarlane, Hirison and Guinness round out the top 20. Everyone else exactly as they finished that previous race. And we do have to jump in rather quickly to be able to get ourselves our race starts here. Drivers already pretty much ready and raring to go here at Road Atlanta. For the second time of asking, it's the Craig Setup Shop Craig Williams number 77 car that will take the green flag here. We're racing once again here in Atlanta, and well, it is a good start from Craig Williams. It's about the P3 going on behind them though. Dan Martin trying to hold on to position from Mark Johnson. Johnson around the outside, and well, Rob Turner getting himself a nose in there to be able to challenge on the way up in towards turn number 3. Battle for the race lead going on at the moment though. Ben Gregory wanting to press forward, although he's caught out of line a little bit, and now he's dropped back into the clutches of Dan Martin instead, who'll make it a good fight of it door to door on the way down the S's section, 2 by 2 in towards turn number 5 here, and oh, Dan Martin's having to go out onto the runoff again. It's so dangerous there, especially given what happened in race 1.
Yeah, it just seemed that we saw Dan Martin having a crash there in the warm-up. I wonder if he's now a bit spooked in that part of the circuit. I mean, you can't really blame him after what happened. Oh, in the first one. Oh, Biff, straight into the side there. Now, who was that? Oh dear. Turner. Rob Turner getting, well, rotated.
Yeah. And looks like broken suspension on that car as well. We're still with the live pictures here. There's Jaroslav Sebula with Benjamin Gregory a bit further down the road. It's Dan Martin that's going to be the challenger in the RD Sim Sports car down the inside in towards the chicane. And Dan Martin, of course, trying to hold on to these positions. He's on the defense here at the moment. And Sebula's doing himself a very good job to try and push through on this one. Potentially 3 wide. Oh, there's a punt though. Holman into the back of Sebula. Sebula holds on to it, takes a trek through the grass, comes back on the circuit 3 wide, deeper in the pack in towards turn number 1. Comes out behind Harris, behind Johnson, as cars are spat out in towards the grass at turn 1. This is a bit of a mess here, Peter, I will admit.
One of the Pure Sims cars went off there as well. It was Blackhall in the 97 who going off the road there as well. Really unlucky for Turner. He just got run off the road. I think it was Dan Martin, but well, I'm sure we'll get a look at it. The 48 of Rob Turner. Here he comes then. So up to turn 6. It happened at turn 7, so there's a little bit of contact there. Number 70, yes, it is Dan Martin. So big move up the inside. First bit of contact, second bit of contact, and then onto the grass. And Turner just couldn't get it stopped. Oh, and just gets clipped on the way around and sent into the into the concrete. That's really, really unlucky. Not a great deal he could have done about that.
Yeah, and you can see here with we'll run it all the way through this replay.
This was sketchy.
This was chaotic, and well, you can see the two RD Satan Sports cars working together. Down the inside goes Dan Martin, although it is Holman that I'm going to be looking at here. We're going to go on board here with Holman and see exactly what happened from his point of view. He looks to the inside here, going down to the corner. Oh. A bit of a tangle. Sebula holds on to it, or credit where credit is due. And what happened to Jake Blackhall and all these drivers back here? They got themselves spat out towards the outside. Oh, just running over each other a little bit.
Yeah, almost a few drivers just carrying that little bit too much speed into turn one. It is very inviting in there, and it can happen. But Blackhall, with it having to take evasive action there, and all the field streaming by. But at the front. Now this is the battle for second as whoa! Dan Martin getting up over the curb. Well held, sir. Goodness me, that was a huge moment there for Dan Martin, the number 70 car for RD Simsport. And Dressaz, would you think he might want to hand out a little bit of justice for his teammate Sebula here?
Yeah, I mean,
a Semper on RD.
Yeah, there's certainly no love lost between those two here at the moment. Going to go and ride on board here with Rafael Drage. He just gets himself driver's right-hand side. Holman will help out his teammate in terms of the draft here to try and keep himself ahead. Drage, though, continues to have a good run of speed, actually, down the hill. Might be able to make this pass happen around the outside of the first apex of turn 10A, and, well, he gets it done. That's actually a very nice pass from Rafael there.
Yeah, very, very nice indeed from Rafael Dressaz, of course, running in the Pro class. Dan Martin running in the AM class as well. So, RD Simsport car Dan Martin fighting, punching above the weight a little bit as usual. Whoa, as they got a 3 wide going into turn one, and that's championship leader Guinness on the inside there, makes the move done. Very nice.
Yeah, Guinness, we were just talking about him wanting to potentially keep out of trouble and not make any mistakes, and going 3 wide into turn one like that, perhaps not the best of ideas, although I'm
fine if you're on the inside.
Yeah, Sebula's taking the toe back to pit lane. What's happened to Jaroslav Sebula here? He was part of this 3 wide situation. He was on the outside. He gets spat out towards the grass here, I have to wonder. Yeah.
Oh, he tangles with that Ledger he tangled with there. It's either Ledger or McFarlane.
I would have thought he'd be able to keep going. He just takes the toe.
Well, I think that's maybe Semper racing driver losing temper there, because I think it's just getting bashed a bit. Oh yeah, Ledger gets in the side, and I wonder, unless it's broken steering or something. Yeah, it could be.
It might be. We're not going to be able to tell from that angle, though, and we do have to return to the live pictures because we do have Ben Gregory, James Holman. Holman actually has been able to get himself up into P2 while we were away from with that replay. So great job from Holman. He can now try and potentially give chase to Craig Williams out front, who's actually got himself a healthy 3.3 second gap in that Audi at the moment. And, well, maybe there is something about Audis in this place.
Yeah, I think there is. There's something in the soil here, the red Georgia clay that the circuit's cut from. But yeah, Craig Williams, he's Frank Bila, of course, winner here at Petit Le Mans, but also a very successful Audi touring car driver as well as in sports cars. So Craig Williams, he's basically the Frank Bila of WTCS.
I think he'll take that.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely an apt comparison. Ben Gregory, though, he's just focused on holding position here at the moment, holding on to as many positions as possible, especially considering Dan Martin it has only one car, separating them at the moment, and that's the battle for the AM class lead here in race 2. But Raffle giving Ben Gregory a push a little bit there. He does eventually angle himself to the inside for the chicane, however. Is Gregory going to fight this one? I'm not sure if he really can, as that's a very comfortable pass once again from Raffle to be able to get himself through. And now Dan Martin might now sense an opportunity for an AM class lead.
Yeah, great battle here. Very evenly matched drivers, Ben Gregory and Dan Martin. Dan Martin's got a good run, and yeah, Gregory spots it and goes to the kind of more tighter defensive line. But that, of course, will run him out wide here as well. And here comes Martin. Here comes Martin. This could put him on the inside for the run up to turn 3. They're absolutely side by side, and Martin goes for it. Oh!
Oh,
Does he hold on to it though? And Gregory gets out on the dirty stuff and loses a number of positions there. So Martin, that was an aggressive move but clean, decisive. Oh! Oh, that's Harrison. Oh, it's backed up Guinness.
It has triggered, made a chain reaction back here. Just that's what happens when people get slightly out of line. It stacks everyone else up behind. Guinness, Harrison have been able to secure themselves ahead of this grouping. It's Rodriguez and Harris that are the ones fighting behind them. Arabia on the outside looking into this particular battle as well. But you just saw how sketchy that situation was. One slightly slow car, one offline car, especially with cars nose to tail behind, can cause those sorts of situations to end in tears potentially. It didn't this time around, but you just so easily that can go wrong. Like Braybeard now looking down the inside of Harris into the chicane, and gets that move done quite forcefully as well, and quite competently, I may add.
I mean, it just showed, Dan, it was almost like a domino there, because Dan Martin, we call him Domino Dan from now on, because he got the move done. Very good move. I mean, you're really difficult to get that move done there at turn 3, but that sort of just put Gregory out wide a little bit, and that sort of kicked off one big kind of chain reaction for Dan Martin. Yeah, great angle here. So there's, on your left ear pictures, Dan Martin, and you're just coming up to this right-hand corner, and oh yeah, precision and really good. And Gregory tries to close the door back down again, but it's too late, and that loss of momentum then puts him back into the chasing pack, and then Harrison thinks there's room, not quite, and has to back out of it, and that then checks up Guinness's exit. So a move that was done cleanly at turn 3 is already still causing an effect at turn 5 for the chasing cars. Oh!
Dan Martin.
Oh, Domino Dan!
Oh no, what has happened here? We're going to cycle it back. Is it turn 5 again? Oh, don't tell me it's turn 5 again.
No. It can't be.
Oh, loose in. Oh!
I don't believe it. Yeah,
parked on top of the barriers. Oh no.
Once is highly unlucky, but that's just beyond unfair. This is on board then with Dan Martin. This is what it looks like from the cockpit. And let's see then. Over the curbs. Gets the car, is in a bit of a slide. It's in the gravel, isn't it? He was me saying it was on the racing line. That was not on the racing line.
Boy. Oh boy.
Oh dear. Do you think there might be an angry email in the iRacing support inbox in the morning? Oh, I mean, you could understand the anger there for Dan Martin. That's really unlucky.
Yeah, it is super unfortunate, and it's just one of those things. Saw on the view on board with it with Savinovich. That's one of the more spectacular incidents that I've seen here at Road Atlanta, I will tell you that. So maybe going to get a good amount of style points for the flips, but thankfully these are simulated cars, not real.
Well, yes, it's for Dan Martin. He came into this round leading the AM Championship, and yeah, he's been in the position to win his class twice, and basically been taken out of it twice.
By the same landmine.
Yes, by the same thing. As we must stress, something completely out of his control as well. Oh, Harrison getting into the corner panel there of Johnston, and they both carry on somehow.
Get the on-board here with Kieran Harrison. You see the side-by-side going on ahead of them.
Inez making moves.
Yeah, definitely. But Harrison gets the speed off the corner. Into the final corner. Yeah, there's no gap there, Kieran.
There's no... cool. Barely even a dab of opposite lock. Yeah, no problem. Fine. Easy.
Well held, but to put himself in that situation, perhaps not best of ideas, because that door to the inside was always going to close there, so I don't think there's much of a point just thinking he knows it.
No, absolutely, and I think that just shows you the difficulty of these reverse grid races and the impatience that's so difficult to contain for the fastest drivers, which of course Kieran Harrison is one of. I mean, the only thing is, though, of course, that Guinness and Harrison started behind McFarlane, but they're now ahead of him, and actually they've got a bit of distance between themselves and Ross McFarlane. So there's actually, although it's not, there's been a few little trips along the way, the Asher Racing guys are doing a super job here.
Indeed they are. Again, it's a very difficult circuit in terms of the traffic, although there have been situations where drivers have let them go. Mark Johnson in that instance into the turn 10 chicane. Just getting well out of the way and letting those guys by. However, though, I'm seeing the gap at the very front. It has come down a little bit. Craig Williams, James Holman, 2.7 seconds. It was more like 3.5. So that has come down just that little bit between the two of them. However, on that last lap, they almost did by a couple of thousandths of a second, identical lap times. It was a 1:28.734 for Craig Williams last time. For James Holman, it was 1:28.737.
Well, see if Craig Williams is able to hang on for this win. As you said, an Audi win here at Road Atlanta would be special, given that he's holding up the honour of the Ingolstadt race department on his own two shoulders. But Holman, we'll see what he can do. Yeah, very, very, very close on times last time around. 2.8 seconds is the gap for now. He's gonna have to be a big push. Oh, Inez throws the dummy around Savidovic. Oh, the rear of the Veloster slipping and sliding around. Savidovic, to be very fair, gives lots of room and carries on, holds the position for now.
Yeah, that was a big opportunity, big lunge and a very well worked move for Guinness. Wasn't able to fully execute it, of course. Little look to the inside there as well at one, but well defended in return for Wojciech Savidovic. Harrison behind may not necessarily want to rattle his teammate's cage too much, so you might just stay out of this one for now. Of course, the team orders between Sim RC we've seen in effect a lot more than we've seen in Pure Sims, for example. Pure Sims seem to have a little bit more leeway to try and fight each other. Meanwhile, Sim RC, it seems, at least from what we've been looking at, that they tend to try and manufacture certain things a lot more of the time. So I'm not expecting Harrison to give Inez too tough of a time here. It's kind of like a repeat of race 1 when those two guys were at the very front.
Yeah, I mean, I think if that's the strategy, it would be totally understandable from the Sim RC team, and Kieran Harrison providing perfect rear gunner services at this stage. Now, Guinness tried. Oh, big late dive to the left. It's so abrupt with those. It's high risk and trying to catch Savidovic unaware, but Savidovic, he's a real old stager. He knows every trick in the book. He's written the playbook and holding off Guinness very, very well, it must be said. Guinness can't quite find a move past Savidovic in that Semper Racing Hyundai, and runs him to the grass. Oh my goodness me. Oh.
Yeah, Savidovic definitely wanted to send the signal that, no, you're not getting to the inside of turn number 1. I'll put you onto the grass if I have to.
Like these abrupt jinks, I can abruptly block just as quick.
Yeah, exactly. It's you got to be careful with those sudden changes of direction sometimes, especially if you're off throttle, because that back end does want to come around on you in these cars. There's the flashing of the lights as well for Guinness as well. He wants, this is perhaps a little bit more aggressive than we see. Guinness 2 tyres out into the grass once again. He's trying to find himself towards the inside here for turn 6. This is the situation where Guinness needs to cool down a little bit, because this could potentially swing the championship. If he gets a DNF here, then McFarlane, of course, he's a little bit further down the field, but he's going to gain those crucial points. I think Inez needs to go into more race conservation mode here than trying to get this position.
Well, he's according to Guinness, his social media profile, he's stood there in a picture with Kevin Estre, and he's obviously been watching Kevin Estre race videos. The pass on the grass there was in full effect, but couldn't quite get it done. Again, side by side. Now, this is the closest he's been, but Savinovic just breaks that a little bit later, but oh, beautiful move there. So Guinness gets it done. Oh, but Savinovic leans on the quarter panel there, and that just loosened him up, but Harrison comes through now as well, and just provides that little bit of rear support there, and throws the gap, throws the block himself. That rear support from Kieran Harrison is so important to Cornton Guinness's championship charge here. Great teamwork.
It is, and Savinovic is now going to stick it down the inside at 3. Oh, he wants to try and dish out some of their own medicine now, doesn't he? He really wants to try and get it in their faces, but not know if there's, so much that he can do in this situation, because Harrison and Guinness are so quick, especially in terms of clear air pace, and now they can just start to run away from Savinovic, from Rabia, from potentially even McFarlane as well. So yeah, that could have ended so differently though between all 3 of those drivers. It's never a situation you want to see, but you could feel the tension between all 3 there. That was crazy.
Wow. And it just shows you in this type of racing, if you've got strong teammates, it is so important. It's so helpful in these pack racing environments where there's so many characters at play. You really, really need that support, and that's exactly what's being provided here, whether that be by design or otherwise. That's what's happening. And look at what that battling's done though, Conry. Look at the number 1 of Ross McFarlane. He's like a stealth bomber. You just never know when he's there all the time, and then all of a sudden with a lap to go, you go, oh, actually, yeah, he's only a couple of positions behind. And how's he done that? He's done it in a so much less dramatic way.
On the final lap here in this pack, and this pack includes the AM class leaders as well, Mark Johnson, Ben Gregory. Those guys fighting it out for that AM class lead. This might come down to the wire here in terms of a final lap move, potentially, for Ben Gregory to get himself back up into that AM class lead. There's the confirmation of the final lap as these guys head their way up and through turn number 5 here. I'm going to have a look and see and check in with Craig Williams as, well, we were kind of memeing on it before we got the start of this race done. We would love to see an Audi take a race winner here at Road Atlanta. Like you mentioned, Peter, a track that's been so successful for that manufacturer in the real world as well. Craig Williams has found what's required in that Audi to potentially come across the line and take this race win here. By the way, back in this AM battle, Johnson has got in himself Stolzenberg between himself and Gregory now, so that might seal the deal in terms of that particular battle, but we'll have to see what goes on down into the chicane. But meanwhile, at the very front of the field, it's a flash to the lights for Craig Williams. The Craig setup shop number 77 Audi, the only Audi in the field, takes a race win here in the World Touring Car Series. Back towards AM class leads though. Mark Johnson gets his way through the final corner. He's able to get himself, well, the pressure all dealt with. Johnson comes across the line to take the AM class win there in a very, very close battle pack to those final couple of laps. Everyone else heading their way across the line, but there we go. There's one very, very happy Craig Williams.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Led from lights to flag. Brilliant driving, and of course it's a car that Craig's got so much mileage in this car, and of course his eponymous setup shop, I'm sure, have that so dialed in. They'll have that set up just right, especially on a circuit like this that's been on the iRacing platform for so long. Fantastic stuff. And what did I say, Conry? The Frank Biela of WTCS, Craig Williams. Here he is.
Craig, change your Twitter bio to Frank Biela of WTCS. That's what I want to see at this point.
Basically Frank Biela.
Basically Frank Biela. But yeah, he's obviously elated with that, and I'm pretty sure Craig streams these races, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So that might be worth a visit on the old Twitch.tv as well. But without further ado, we do have to get ourselves another reverse grid spinny wheel situation. And well, this time around it was 20. What's it going to be for race number 3, however? Of course, it's worth reminding everyone we haven't had a full reverse grid just yet in this season. I'm going to always try and tempt fate and get it because those are pretty chaotic races. I don't think it's going to happen with the location of it this time around. Are we going to get 17? Looks like we potentially might get ourselves 17 as our reverse grid pole position. And that will mean, pending any penalties and some such, that Nick Clibbens will get himself on pole position for race 3. It means Damien Harris is P2, Jake Blackwell P3, Jamie Rushworth P4. So 17-car reverse grid here today in the third race of the World Touring Car Series at Road Atlanta. While the admins are getting that all set up, we can have a look at our unofficial race results as well. So Craig Williams takes a race win here in the World Touring Car Series, P1 for the Craig, shall we say. But James Holman in P2, very respectable P2 for James Holman there. Great result for the RD Sport car. Then we have Rafael Drage P3, Quentin Guinez in P4, and then we have Kieran Harrison P5. That was a whole battle going towards the end there with Wojciech Savidovic in P6. Lloyd Grabia P7, Ross McFarlane P8, Steam Ledger P9, and Mark Johnston will round out the top 10. And of course, he is the AM Class winner as well. Having a look at the second page results though, Konstantin Stolzenberg P11 with Benjamin Gregory P12, Esteban Rodriguez P13 with Jamie Rushworth P14, Jake Blackwell 15th with Damien Owen Harris in P16 with Nick Clibbens P17, Harry Fox, Marcel Fritsch, Neil Rocks will round out the top 20 cars. And then we look further back, we go to P21 with Neil Stevenson, P22 Scott Malcolm, 23rd with Dan Martin. He does get himself a classified finish here on the leading lap as well, which is surprising considering how that car was on the top of a barrier on the exit of turn 5. I'm not entirely sure how Dan's been able to manage that, I'll be honest. Sean Gardner in P24 with Rob Turner P25. Sam Smith P26 with more retirements. Pete Newman, Jaroslav Sebula, Morgan Butler, Anders Ankerson rounds out the top 30. Then we've got Tal Johnson and Rob Sutherland bringing up the rear. So, another chaotic race here in the World Touring Car Series, a fantastic race, and one that ends with an Audi on top, but all of the action was behind that, especially with Guinness and Harrison trying to work through on the fields there. That was... it's quite rare, at least in this season, that I've seen Guinness get so aggressive with cars in a reverse grid race. He usually is a little bit more clinical and more clinical on that, and has, you know, just sends it down the inside, gets the pass done, no problems. But he does seem to maybe struggle a little bit here today trying to get through them.
Yeah, I have to say that's definitely the most animated we've seen Quentin Guinness in such a long time. But I mean, what do you think, Conrad? Is that a kind of Road Atlanta factor that if you know, you might well have a speed advantage, but actually getting a move done in certain parts of the circuit is borderline impossible if someone wants to defend hard enough?
Yeah, I think there's certainly an element of that. It's both a circuit that has a wealth of overtaking opportunities and some very obvious ones. However, it's also easy to get stuck behind. It's kind of a weird sort of situation there where, yeah, it's easy to pass, but also it's easy to get held up. Which is, especially, like you said, if that defending driver is good at defending. So it's very interesting track for that reason. It's why that I consider it, in terms of iRacing special events with the Petit Le Mans coming up, why it's the best special event that there is, to be honest, because you have these sorts of situations basically every single lap, and it's more about trying to work your way through on lap traffic and some such, rather than potentially overall pace, which is just adds another element. But of course, these are sprint races here in the Touring Car Series, but it's still the same arguments.
It's the same theory. Yeah,
theory.
Definitely. Yeah, totally agree with you, Conrad. I think it's because you look at qualifying. You know, qualifying, the top three were covered by half a tenth, 55,000th of a second, and you've got the top drivers are covered by such fine amounts, even at the top of the AM class as well. So. But the difference between a good lap in traffic and a bad lap in traffic is multiple seconds. And I mean, and that applies here in a 20-minute sprint race with touring cars. But as you rightly say, Petit Le Mans this weekend, multi-class sports car racing for both the prototypes and the GT cars. It is, you know, these top teams are they're searching for thousandths of a second, and you can literally give away thousands of those every lap. And only Road Atlanta is so unique like that. And if you want to win here, you've got to be a master of traffic.
You really, really do. And, well, we're definitely going to tune in to the Pets of the Mall on the weekends. But we do have one more race to go here in the World Touring Car Series. 17-car reverse grid coming into this one. I'm having a look at the YouTube chat as well because I think it's probably worthwhile. Lloyd Crabia was one of our drivers saying that is Dan Martin going to stop trying to do the Giga Jump in Turn 5? I think he's going to try and vault it over the catch fence this time. He didn't quite make it this time, so maybe next time.
Please don't try a third time. Oh dear. Coming back to your point, Conray, I actually don't quite know how he finished on the lead lap.
Yeah, exactly.
It's impossible. It's impossible. That can't happen. Surely not. Because the tow alone is a minute or two at least. I don't know.
Did he manage to get himself off for the barrier?
Do you think
the point?
Oh, did it teleport him back to the pits? It's been a weird evening. It's been a weird evening. We've had everything tonight. We've had landmines. We've had people getting stuck on barriers. We've had DSG farts, and we've had everything.
We had gazebos.
Gazebos. we had gazebos, awnings, and umbrellas.
Yeah, this is the World Touring Car Series, everyone, where we discuss such important things such as
you can tell we're on a break
and tents and whatever awnings that we decide that is appropriate for the race teams. But yeah, I mean, again, a super unfortunate situation once again for Dan Martin. It's never a situation. Again, it's drivers are aware of it, but sometimes you just can't help hitting them. Sometimes. Harry Fox saying, I think we should accept that it's his signature move now, which is probably fair to say. Dan even saying in the Discord, saying landmine 2, Dan 0.
Yeah, I mean, we called him Domino Dan, and I think we're gonna have to put that nickname in the bin. I don't know, Gel Ignite Dan, Dynamite Dan. Yeah, Dynamite Dan. There's a bit of dynamite underneath him. It's like something like a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Thing is, for the sake of completeness, he has to do it in this race now. There's no other way of avoiding it. It's like he needs to complete the set, Again, on a serious note, though, there is a championship to be concerned about in regards to Am with that entire situation. Dan's going to come out of these three races potentially feeling a bit sore from being flung around by the landmines, but also in terms of the points lost in the championship, because Gregory's gotten himself some decent finishes here today as well.
He has, yeah. Ben Gregory's been right there, and he's been right there all season, his Gregory. So, yeah, opportunity for him, and, you have to take them in whatever form they come. You've got to take these chances to win the championship.
Really, really do. But we are... we got 6 races after this one, so we got 7 races to go here in this season, which has been absolutely fantastic up until this. Actually, we got ourselves 10 races. My mathematics just failed because we have 3 more rounds to go after this one. Don't trust my mental maths, that's all I'm saying. But 10 races to go here in the World Touring Car Series. So we are getting towards the end of the season now. This is when these championships are going to start being decided, and over the next couple of rounds we'll be able to talk about potential scenarios and who needs to finish where to win what. So that's definitely something to look forward to once we get ourselves to that point. But we do have this race to get out of the way with. Grammar is hard. But we've got 4 minutes and 40 seconds before we get ourselves our starting grid here for race number 3. And it is a little bit cooler out there, by the way. We got ourselves 25 to 7 in sim times. Quite late on into the evening, 22 degrees track time.
Perfect conditions. 22 degrees track time, absolutely ideal, which is important because, there's quite a lot of high-load corners here, Conry, and of course, a lot of right-handers. So the front left, especially these front-wheel drive cars, takes an absolute battering around here.
Yeah, indeed it does. So any respite from from that is certainly going to be very, very welcome here in this one. I'm just having a look to see, get ourselves into the session here just for a second. There we go. So you can see the sun already starting to set here. We might indeed have another sort of dusk race here, which seems to be a fan, well, the admin seems to be a fan of. We've had a few of these already here in Race 3s. So those headlights are going to be ever more important once we get ourselves later on into the session, especially given this is a circuit that doesn't have any night lighting.
Yeah, interesting stuff. I mean, that's going to be very, very nice for the tyres. That sort of cool night air for these touring car drivers. Headlights on though as well, so blazing. So no need to flash them because they're on already.
The drivers will find a way.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we saw Guinness leaning on them over the course of the previous race, and potentially more of that to come. Nick Clibbens, reverse grid pole position sitter. So we'll see what he can do from that situation. Not usually a driver we're used to seeing at least at the very top of the AM standings. I'm pretty sure he won't be offended in me saying that. However, he is P9 in terms of the AM Championship, and he's not too far behind in terms of points compared to everyone else ahead of him. He's actually 1 point behind Scott Malcolm for P8, and then another 33 points behind Lee Berridge for P7. So this potentially might be a good opportunity for Clibbens to secure himself further inside that top 10 in terms of AM, where everyone is actually rather close together in terms of points.
Yeah, interesting one. We'll see. The AM class has really been blown open, really, by, well, ironically, the landmines in the gravel trap at turn 5. Poor old Dan Martin. I mean, we can't stress that enough. But yeah, opportunity for, whoa, it's Nick Clibbens. Whoa. Yeah, getting it properly wiggly there. He's going for it. He's getting ready for his pole position start. And whoa, yeah, that little Veloster just seems to be a little bit more maneuverable, but a little bit twitchier at the same time with that slightly shorter wheelbase.
Yeah, indeed it is, and well, at least for Clibbens, it's worth keeping in mind what happened in the second race. You know, Craig Williams got himself away cleanly from the line, got himself a couple of laps under his belt. Everyone else behind him was fighting. So once the faster drivers did come through that field, the gap was too large for them to do anything about him and his race lead. This is what Clibbens is going to be hoping for in this one. It's usually the way that reverse grid pole position setters win races, is they get away at the front and everyone else squabbles behind.
Yeah, that's the opportunity that you've got, and if you can just get that clean run, there's always going to be fighting behind you. And yeah, I mean, looking at the reverse grid that we have, it's the faster drivers, it's going to be tough for them to come through. I mean, look what happened in that last race. It was chaos in those first couple of laps.
Indeed it was, and basically you want to start ahead of where all that is likely to happen. So say if you're around about 10th, 11th, 12th, that's probably more dangerous than actually starting right in the middle of the pack sometimes, and definitely more dangerous than starting at the front or at the very back. So yeah, it's always a sketchy situation when you start there, and that's where usually a lot of the fast drivers start in terms of reverse grid races as well. At least that's the region that they're trying to progress through on. So it just makes it even more dangerous here. But we've got 10 seconds left before we get ourselves off and away and into our third starting grid of the day. And third race on the cards as well here in the setting sun here at Road Atlanta.
Beautiful circuit, it really is. It's and it's so popular for testing as well. As a lot of course, we saw the brand new IMSA GTP cars testing here a couple of days ago.
Indeed we did. Well, we get ourselves the starting grid then for the third race of the evening in the World Touring Car Series. It does look a little bit like this. Nick Clibbens on pole position with Damien Owen Harris in P2. Jake Blackall P3 with Jamie Rushworth P4. Esteban Rodriguez will start P5 with Benjamin Gregory in P6. P6. Then we look back, Konstantin Stolzenberg in P7 with Mark Johnston in P8. Steenledger P9 with Ross McFarlane P10. Lukrabia P11 with Wojciech Svidovic in P12 here today for this particular race start. Kieran Harrison P13, Quentin Guinness P14, Rafael Draws P15, James Holman 16th, Craig Williams will start 17th, everyone else exactly as they finished in race number 2. It's only getting darker out there here at Road Atlanta. We're about to go racing once again in the World Touring Car Series. We're very thankful you're able to join us for this one. Nick Clibbons on pole position. What can he do from there? He's going to have the inside down in towards turn number 1 as those engine notes rise and we get going once again. Clibbons getting himself an incredible start, actually, getting himself a couple of car lengths already on the way down in towards turn number 1. It's Jake Blackwell to the inside of Damon Owen Harris for P2, though, in towards this first turn. Big fight here for the second step on the podium. And it's nearly going to Nick Clibbons. Oh no, unforced error. He gets himself out into the grass. Oh, that couldn't have gone any worse for the number 13 car. It is unlucky for some, and it's certainly unlucky for Clibbons.
Oh, Nick Clibbons, he was doing so well. He got the perfect getaway. Oh, cars everywhere. Gregory off in the AM class. Oh dear, number of drivers involved. Not a great deal of Joy Sport going on there. Oh!
Yeah. Johnson has a broken suspension. Back towards the very front of the field, we have Blackhall, Rodriguez, Rushworth, all trying to scrap for positions here. These are all pretty much Pure Sims cars, or at least Pure Sims associated cars. Stolzenberg, definitely not, so he's going to try and find a way through on this Pure Sims wall here at the moment. It's a chaotic race start here in race number 3. Clibbons with just an unforced error out wide into the grass. He got an amazing start, Peter.
I think he maybe just, he got such a good start, he almost carried too much speed into turn 1, just getting determined to get away and just a little bit too over ambitious. Very, very unfortunate. But, that's just going to be so frustrating for him. But, yeah, there's a strong Pure Sims presence at the front of the field, it seems, here. And the 85 of Steenledger there in 6th, McFarlane in 7th, so they're very much the danger men in this early stages then. So, poor old Nick Clibbons, that's so unlucky. Oh, it gets just the perfect getaway, just hooks it up. And then coming into turn 1, it just invites you in and, he's just going to run that little bit wide. Oh, tiny bit too much.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there. Out across the grass he goes. It's tricky to find an angle, to be honest. And then we had this huge stack up here as cars were trying to get themselves through on that.
Huge hit.
Ben Gregory. Yeah, that has caused a big miss down there. I mean, that's on the borderline of a safety car, if I have to argue there, at least with a second look at it. Potentially, if I was able to see the full extent of it, I would have called one myself in that situation, but we just didn't have the camera angles available, at least on the live pictures, to be able to make that call, and it's a bit late to make it now. But back towards the very front of the field, it's Harris that leads from Jake Blackwell.
Yeah, it's going to be an intriguing battle. I mean, Damien Harris has run at the front of several touring car series here on the iRacing platform, so he knows how to get the job done. And running in the green and black and white Maniti colours. Oh! Big moment there. Svidovic, yeah. And he's back with James Holman in the RD Sim Sport car.
Let's see what happened to Svidovic. Battling with one of the Sim RC machines here. Seeing Jake Blackwell fall down the order on the live timing here at the moment. So we'll just let this one run through and see what's happened to Jake Blackwell. So this is Svidovic coming down into the final corner. 2 tires into the grass. It's not going to help. Well held though, to make sure that car doesn't meet an unfortunate fate. I'm having a look now at Blackwell because I saw him drop down the order. Oh,
he's done a Clibbons. There we go. Yeah, he has almost. Now, does he keep it out the wall? I think he does. That's good. So, although he loses a lot of positions, does keep the car out undamaged. That's very important indeed. But interestingly, there, that mistake from Svidovic was just Christmas come early for Corentin Guinness, because he was directly behind, and I'm sure Guinness was thinking, oh, not again. I don't want to get stuck behind Wojcik again. But he basically got a bit of a free kick. Now, what's the problem there for McFarlane? He's losing time hand over fist. Did he have a slowdown penalty there? Oh, no.
Big incident now and towards the
chicane. Cars everywhere. Oh, wow.
More cars involved in this one. Oh, that's a big mess down into there. Thankfully, there's a runoff, so it doesn't cause a track blockage, although the rejoins are not the best. Clibban's involved in that as well. Oh, that happened out of shot of our cameras, so I have no idea what happened to try and cause that one, but we have the luxury of going back and taking a look.
Oh, mistake from Harrison. You do not see that very often. Harrison ploughs into the back of one of the SimLab cars. Now that is a collector's item. You really don't see Kieran Harrison making an error of that kind. Let's get a look then. On board with with Harrison. So there's Ross McFarlane on the left. And here we go then. Goes to hit the brakes. And that's very unusual. Not like him at all. That's Esteban Rodriguez, yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm stunned. You just don't see Kieran Harrison make those sort of mistakes very often at all.
Here's what happened. That's not Damien Harris. We're on board with Nick Clibbans here at the moment. He went off. He saw everything going on ahead of him. Oh, and it was Craig just slamming on the anchors. Clibbans not expecting Craig to break that early for the incident and just sends himself out into the gravel, and a very close rejoin as well.
Well, yeah, it's easy to get flustered in those situations, but yeah, in one thing, Clibbans made an error, definitely on braking or just in, anticipating the incident ahead. However, he did remarkably well not to drill the back of Craig Williams' Audi. That was close. That was very close. Meanwhile, at the front, Damien Harris, he's having a great night at the office here. The nighttime conditions making his Hyundai Veloster come alive here, and he's got just over a second advantage over Steve Ledger and Ross McFarlane. 13 minutes to go. Can he hang on for what would be a superb victory? But he's going to have to hang on with a challenge coming from the very best behind him.
Yeah, well, Steen Ledger a second behind in the course center's number 85 Civic. And McFarlane's in tow as well in the other Pure Sim Civic.
And
so it's
look who else is in tow.
Yeah, and yeah, Guinness. I should probably just list them all down to P28 or whatever now at the moment, because it seems like everyone's still keeping themselves relatively close together. But yeah, it's basically the fastest drivers in this series. Sans Kieran Harrison here, that's bearing down on Damien Owen Harris. So that is going to be a very, very tough P1 to hold on to. Of course, Craig Williams in this situation in race 2, he had a 3.5 second gap to be able to keep himself safe. But Harris doesn't have anything like that.
Yeah, well, and I think that Damien Harris will just be really hoping that Ledger, McFarlane, and Guinness get caught in a little bit of argy-bargy, but you know they're all. I just think they're all too clever for that. Particularly McFarlane and Guinness. But I just don't. It looks like there's a definite change in body language here from Guinness from race 2 into this race 3. He's just thinking, right, I'm just going to sit on the rear bumper of Ross McFarlane, not let the train drag me up to the leader, and then we'll get the gloves off and go for the win. But Damien Harris is saying, oh, please start fighting, please, so I can scamper off at the front. Yeah,
that's what he's hoping. He's hoping on the team orders that we don't see usually from Pure Sims comes into effect here, and Ledger and McFarlane going to have a scrap for P2. But I think given the situation, the Pure Sims guys might work together here instead. Although, saying that, Ross McFarlane getting himself alongside. Does Steen make it easy for him? He does. And Green has actually taken this as a bit of an opportunity to get himself to the inside. He spins Ledger around. McFarlane's out into the grass as well, and that might be the space that Harris needs to go and win this one.
Well, that was interesting. I mean, that's where coordinated flying, you're gonna see Ledger either pull out the throttle or brake very, very early. And I think Guinness anticipated that. Ledger throws a kind of half-hearted block late on, closes the line, snips right across the nose of Guinness. I mean, I don't really know if you can put that on Guinness, to be quite frank. Let's get a bit. This will give us a better idea then. So there goes McFarlane. He's well on the inside. Guinness has got a huge run on Ledger. Ledger shuts the door and then just comes across him under braking. That's always going to happen. And what could Guinness have done to avoid that? Nothing.
Yeah. I think, of course, we're not stewards. We can only give our
no, thank God.
I mean, yeah. Thank God we're not stewards. Otherwise, I don't know. I'll get my door battered down every week. But yeah, you are absolutely right there, though. Ledger was the driver that was, at least in my opinion, coming across slightly to the left-hand side, just closing that gap a little bit. Guinness basically held the car straight in the braking zone. And it was the pure sim car that came across, at least from my perspective there. Of course,
totally agree.
We have the stewards to make those actual decisions in terms of penalties, but yeah, that's my call on that at least.
Totally agree. Yeah, that's exactly how I would see that. And that's the danger. If you're going to do formation flying, it's perfectly within the rules. You can do it as much as you want. But you've got to make sure you don't get compromised. And Guinness went for the opportunity there, and I think Ledger just tried to shut the door while it was too late and paid the price, and his teammate paid the price. And Rushworth paid the price to a side-to-side action there with Holman. And Craig Williams in the Audi, our very own Frank Biela, he's up there mixing it in the top 10 again.
You should put that as like sort of a nickname. It's Craig Frank Biela Williams.
Yeah, basically Frank Biela
in this situation. But yeah, 3 wide into turn 1. It happens here, but never with a huge amount of success. Oh boy. Craig Williams got a rear bumper full of of the car there. Let's just have a look at the onboard there from Craig.
Yeah, he's going to get a taste of the SimLab Veloster here. Tries to hold the outside line and did well to stay on track there, actually.
He really did. Again, could have ended in more tears than it did, but continues on. Williams keeping himself ahead of Rafael George this time around. Pack of cars of Holman, Blackhall, Ledger further down the road than they were a couple of moments ago, that's for sure. As I'll return us back to the race leads, because this is the one that's been closing in, and Guinness now pretty much within striking distance. That was quick.
Yeah, and a couple of years ago, Guinness and Damien Owen Harris raced wheel to wheel week in, week out in another TCR series when it was just the Audi to choose from, where everyone was Frank Biela, and they were incredibly evenly matched. Now you could argue that certainly on pace Guinness has definitely made a step up, and yeah, that's interesting. I actually expected Damien Owen Harris to go much more on the defensive there and try and hold Guinness off, but decides against it, maybe playing the strategy, thinking, you know what, I'm just going to take a big haul of points. Trying to hold off Guinness is too much risk, and I think I'll just take the points. But I'm surprised at that. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I mean, the longest the same team on the entry list.
Well, that might also play a factor.
Yeah,
yes.
The deliveries are different though. But Ross McFarlane to the outside, big send, the long way around at turn 10A. That is a big statement from Ross McFarlane. But can he complete it through the traction on the underneath the Suzuki bridge? He can. He gets himself ahead through the final corner. Harris is going to try and come back at him here. He's going to have a bit of a run with the slipstream in towards T1 and does get himself towards the inside. There's the response from Harris, but has he overcooked it? Well, here's the up and under from Ross McFarlane to try and respond up in towards turn number 3. Gets himself to the inside for that slightly blind corner. Door to door down the S's section now, and then falling back into the clutches of Stolzenberg. He's catching him at like a rate of knots. McFarlane keeps himself ahead, but that was a good attempt for Harris to hold on to that.
Well, I think the point you make about them running in the same team but in different colours, I think that's the perfect demonstration there. Whereas, Harris basically moved over for Guinness to go by. He definitely didn't move over for Ross McFarlane, that's for sure. But superb racing by both drivers there. Really clean, really firm and fierce. Brilliant stuff. But goodness me, did McFarlane had that little Honda stood on its nose there. I couldn't believe he actually kept that one out. The gravel he was on the brake so late there. Wow.
Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. For those wondering, Damon Harris is running the Maniti team livery there. So not sure if he's just uploaded the wrong paint to training to the paint submission or what's going on there. But there are some teams that are more of a partnership between different teams here in the series. SimRC is actually one of them because they have T3 involved in that. I have to wonder if Maniti is basically the T3 representative with regards to that. I might have just worked it out myself there, Peter, to be honest. Stolzenberg and Sividovic there. Close battle for P4 on circuit.
Yeah, very, very close here between Stolzenberg and Sividovic, who's certainly not been backwards and coming forwards tonight. He's been a fierce watching tonight, as he always is, really. But Damon Harris, he'll be trying to hold on here for this podium finish in third place. 4 minutes to go. McFarlane starting to just stretch a bit of an advantage now back to Damon Harris, which will be a strong second place. But you have to say, Conry, McFarlane needed to outscore Guinness in this particular race because Guinness outscored McFarlane in race 1 and 2, and looks like it's going to be a clean sweep at this stage.
Well, I've had the team situation explained to me in the comments by Nathan Armas. There we go. I was right. Maniti was the T3 in the whole EKC by SimRC T3 situation. So yeah, just saying T3 was Maniti at the start of the season when Damien teamed up with Kieran and Corentin as the guy coming into the season. Obviously T3 now Maniti again, but the team name didn't change. Thank you for that explanation there. I used to be a lot more in tune with regards to the a lot of the teams in terms of on iRacing when I did the Sports Car Open and such, but I'm a bit rusty in that department. So any help is appreciated there. But yeah, good to know, and definitely an explanation of why Harris made it so easy for Guinness.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, made it absolutely makes sense. Thank you for that one, Nathan, for the clarification. And that just shows you again, coming back to the point where having strong teammates around you is very, very important. The more allies you've got in these fierce battles that we're seeing, it's so helpful. So yeah, there's plenty of Pure Sims cars up the front there.
Even the one that's not really,
but they're all kind of spread out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Sorry for interrupting you there, but yeah, they are all kind of in their own postcode here at the moment. It's of course you got this Blackwell versus Holman situation going on the way down the hill. Holman again getting himself a good amount of points from this amount of races. Ooh, Blackwell has completely overcooked the chicane there, and it was very slow off the corner. It stalled Holman's run a little bit though, so Blackwell might still keep himself ahead when all is said and done here. But look at the run that Holman got through the corner there, through the final corner, potentially a move to the inside through turn number 1, but no, going to stay in line for now. Although Craig Williams is having to defend from someone that sends it down the inside. That's Rafael Drage to get himself up into P9, and quite comfortably so actually over Craig Williams.
Now in the AM class, he's had certainly an eventful evening. Started from pole, went off at turn 1, but he's still leading the AM class. It's Nick Clemens. He's in 13th. He's number 13. He's unlucky for some. It seems to be working at the moment. He's got just under 4-second advantage at the front of the AM class. So keep it on the island, and he's going to come away with an AM class win. Yeah,
I mean, definitely deserved, especially considering how, yes, he had a bit of an off-track excursion, it's probably fair to say, out of turn number 1 first lap. However, to be able to keep himself in the AM class lead is certainly a big achievement. So credit where credit's due. Yes, it could have been a whole boatload more points because everyone's fighting for the same points here in the series, no matter if they're Am or Pro. Stolzenberg down the inside of Harris. Harris bullied out a line, comes back on. Oh, that's a mess. And so Savidovic has gotten a piece of that one as well. You can see that happening on Malov. Oh, more afters. And Harris hard into the wall.
I'd love to see an onboard with Damien and Harris of what all happened there, because there was about 4 different accidents going on there. Right, let's try and dissect this for you folks. So, Damien and Harris trying to break the toe to Stolzenberg because you are really vulnerable going down that part of the circuit. Goes to the inside, then opens the door up again slightly. Stolzenberg takes it, and it's just not quite up car width there, and Harris is out of control, plows into the side of Stolzenberg. Stolzenberg rejoins right in front of him. They make contact again, and then the Blackhall's not expecting it, and oh, dear me.
Yeah.
How it can go from bad to, well, it can go from brilliant to terrible in just the blink of an eye.
Yeah, indeed it does. And, well, there's the confirmation on the fact that we're on the final lap now. There's Quentin Guinez heading his way down the back straight for the final time. Meanwhile, behind him, potentially a battle for P3 between Savidovic and Steen Ledger. That's what we're going to be looking at here for the end of the race. Last opportunity for Ledger to try and improve position, to try and get himself onto the 3rd step of the podium. They're absolutely level coming down into the chicane. Savidovic keeping himself ahead for now. Savidovic all out of shape though, coming on the exit of the corner. He loses it to Ledger. He loses it even to Stolzenberg as well. Going towards the front though, it's Quentin Guinez picking up yet another race win in the World Touring Car Series. He basically has one hand on the title now, one hand on the trophy. Quentin Guinez, another exemplary display of driving. Meanwhile, further back through the field, we got the rest of our runners coming through and finishing each of their individual races as well, but no one in a particularly close battle here at the very end. But oh boy, Savidovic and Ledger at the end there. That was a bit spicy.
Spicy indeed, yes, certainly was. And yeah, Savidovic there, unlucky, it has to be said, because that was, I mean, in some you could say it was a bit of a push to pass. I mean, Ledger goes around the outside, and then flip, and off you go. I mean, difficult one, but certainly Savidovic coming off first there.
Maybe a little bit of action at the distance there as well with internet racing, but yeah, that's one for the Steelers to sort out. But something that's definitely not in any doubt is Quentin Guinez, another race win and another decent points haul coming out of today, and extending his gap in terms of the championship, coming into the final 3 rounds of the season. That's all that Guinez really wanted, all that he really needed, and there's a song that goes with that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean those 9 races are yeah. This is Ross McFarlane needs. I think he's going to need Guinez to hit trouble now at this stage.
Yeah, I definitely think that is the case as well, as they bring it all down bring all the cars down back onto pit lane. Grammar is not my strong point, ladies and gentlemen, even though I am a commentator. But let's have a look at the race results. Quentin Guinez P1 from Ross McFarlane, from Steen Ledger, from Konstantin Stolzenberg, from Wojciech Savidovic. So that's your top 5. Then we've got James Holman P6, Raphael Johnson P7, and Craig Williams P8. Jamie Rushworth P9, Jake Blackhall round out the top 10. Anders Ankerson P11. Nick Clements comes across the line to win in the AM class in P12 overall, with Carl Johnson P13, Marcel Fritsch P14, Daniel Martin 15th. Didn't hit a landmine in this 3rd race, which is a break of the trend that we've seen. Neil Stevenson P17, Esteban Rodriguez Neil Stevenson P16, Esteban Rodriguez P17, Sean Gardner in P18 with Rob Sutherland 19th, and Morgan Butler rounds out the top 20. Then we've got Kieran Harrison, an uncharacteristic P21 after that incident down into the chicane. Harry Fox, P22, Ben Gregory, P23, and Mark Johnson, Damian Harris, down in P25. Yeah, it could have been a little bit more from our reverse grid pole position sitter. Then we have Neil Rocks, Sam Smith, Rob Turner, Lloyd Grabia, and Jaroslav Sebula rounding up the top 30, and those are the 30 cars that actually started this event. So as we wait for a couple of drivers to join us here in the commentary booth for their post-race interviews, how would you summarize that one, Peter? Because I think I get the feeling we saw three exciting races, yes, but for different reasons.
I think you saw some superb stuff, actually. Yeah, really close racing, a lot of high-quality stuff. And yeah, Road Atlanta never fails to disappoint. I think man of the moment, you got to take your hat off to Craig Williams. That still some life left in that old Audi, and yeah, he really showed a great performance to do that. But once again, Corentin Guinez, he really just maximizes yet another race meeting, and he's in such a strong position right now with 3 rounds to go.
Yeah, he's definitely a formidable foe for everyone else, and it might be the case that Laguna is sort of plain sailing until the end of the season. At this point now, it's gonna. I don't really see a situation that anyone's going to be able to come back at him from this point. Yes, McFarlane was second in this race 3, minimizing the points delta as much as possible. What he needs to do is to be gaining points, not minimizing points lost, to be able to win a championship. So that's it would require an absolutely rotten race day, or potentially 2 race days for Corentin Guinez for the championship situation to change in Pro. But in terms of AM, though, that one continues to be very close indeed. Of course, Dan Martin will be sliding further back from Ben Gregory, given the instance that he's had over the 3 races that we've had. Well, technically 2 with both the landmines there, but for Martin, it's not been a fantastic day. But in the end, I don't really see a massive standout performer in that AM class yesterday. It seemed to be you roll the dice and you win the AM AM class.
It was always thus, yeah. I do think you got to look at the position that, and this is where it hurts even more. You look at the position where Dan was when he had those two issues completely beyond his control. He was running very strongly both times, so he was definitely up there. Ben Gregory was fighting there too, but it's very rare that you see one of the AM class drivers have the kind of 3 perfect races. There, it's more kind of getting the very best out of it. So you're right. I don't think there was a standout performer, but I do believe that there are plenty of players who could come in and snatch that championship over the next 3 rounds.
Yeah, there's also for those part of the World Sim Racing Discord, there's currently a bit of a spicy conversation going on between Kieran Harrison and the Pure Sims guys. So I'll leave you to check that one out, because Kieran Harrison's not too happy about how the Pure Sims car were treating him like a punching bag. That's not a quote, but I'm just sort of paraphrasing in that sense. So it's a bit of drama coming out today. Of course, the stewards will handle all incidents that have been happening over the course of this race day, just like they've been handling everything over the course of the season. But with that, because it doesn't seem like drivers want to come in for any interviews here at this stage, we will just have to wrap things up. You've been watching the 9th race meeting of this season at Road Atlanta for the World Touring Car Series. My name's been Connery Maddock. I've been joined by Peter Mackay as ever. In terms of the next race, however, we head down under. We head to Mount Panorama, otherwise known as Bathurst. That's going to be happening in 2 weeks' time. October 20th is when we visit that legendary circuit. And, you can basically bet on a safety car being sprinkled in there as well, given the situation. But from here, at Road Atlanta, well, we will have to say goodbye, but you do want to stick around here on RaceSpotTV for the weekend, because we do have the iRacing Petit Le Mans coming up as well at this very same circuit. So you want to stick around and subscribe to RaceSpotTV for that. But for here at the World Touring Car Series, we'll have to say goodbye.